All right, so this is a representation of the nothingness. It can be, it can also represent the cipher, the circle, 360 degrees, like it was said earlier. It could represent the sun, it could represent the moon. So when we put a dot in the middle, right, we can call it amen as a word, but it's really just the first spark of something coming out of nothingness, no matter what you might call it. Um, in the Yoruba, they call it Ola Dumare, Olo Dumare, right? In the Christian tradition, they call it God. In the Muslim tradition, they call it Allah, right? So in the in the what you call it in the Kush tradition, we call it the eye. You can you see it now as a pupil of an eye? It is the eye of God. It is the pupil of God. All right. So after the first manifestation, we start to begin to see the manifestation of dualities rather than one just giving birth to one. After the one, which is actually half of what it came from, so it begins to manifest in dualities. So the one splits into two, the two splits into two more, and we have the image of the common denominator. So I want you. All right. What is this? Okay, so here's a quick quiz. Tell me, Mr. Roach, tell me what quadrant three is.
That is,
Or pick one that you might know, that you think you
what
know.
is it? Hot and moist, or it's dry and moist? I mean, dry and hot.
Yeah, it takes a little while to get the verbiage together. But Candace, pick one and name it.
Okay, so number one is the cold and moist and representative of the winter season, the introverted emotional temperament.
Got it. Okay, we have two more. There's two, y'all. Somebody pick one and explain it. We got the three is hot and dry. The one is said with cold and moist. What's two and four? You're looking at it too hard. It's this simplify it to dualities. What is this side represents, right? Remember what this whole side represents, and then remember what this whole side represents. Let me give you a hand. Okay, so HD is what number? Hot and dry is what number?
Three.
Cold and moist is what number?
1,
Hot and moist is what number?
2,
And Candace?
Cold and dry is 4.
Okay. So now we have A, B, C, D. Okay. 12 noon would be what letter? Anybody?
A.
So then what is 12 midnight? This is very important. This is the crucial understanding for everything else that we're going to learn.
I'm not sure I'm following that one, Baba. I need a little bit of help with this.
Okay. The daily cycle. This is the daily cycle over here. You have 12 noon, 6 a.m., 6 p.m., and 12 midnight. Which one of these, A, B, C, D, would correspond to which one of these? I'm going to just tell you now, A being 12 noon is wrong. And remember, you have a duality. So it's practically anything you say, you're going to be either 100% right or 50% right.
Well, midnight would be A, noon would be C, D would be AM, I think, 6 a.m.
Nope.
That would be the PM then.
Right. Because we're always moving in a counterclockwise motion. This is the motion that the earth naturally spins in. This is the motion. Now, if this was the sun, this is the way the earth moves around the sun in a counterclockwise motion. So this is the natural progression of the cycle in the going what is called counterclockwise. Okay, so we got that. We got the hot and moist. We got the daily cycle. Now we have the yearly cycle. And Candace, you was doing good on this. Can you repeat what you said? A, B, C, or D?
Yes. So quadrant number 1 is winter. Number 2 is our summertime. Number 3 would be our fall.
Okay.
And then number 4 is spring. Did I say that backwards?
Now, let me ask you, on what planet does summer come after winter? I'm just asking because I would like to go there.
Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry. I see now. Number 1 is winter. Number 2 is spring, the moist time. While it's still hot, yet it's moist. So that's where you have more wetness, more oxygen, things are being planted. And then number 3 being the summertime where it's dry and hot. And then number 4 is the fall where it's still dry, but now cold.
Got it. That was very good.
Okay.
All right. What letter would be the full moon, Mike?
A, I believe. Oh, no, it would be C.
Oh, you second guessed yourself. You was right the first time. Okay. The new moon. The way that everything is ordered on the diagram is very important also for the understanding. Okay. 1 and 3 will never change places. 2 and 4 will never change places. A and C is never going to change places. B and D is never going to change places, right? This particular order is used to teach people in ancient Kemet about the cycles of life and how the stars move, how temperaments are, so that you have what's called a transmutation, right? Winter eases into spring, which eases into summer, which eases into fall, and the cycle continues over and over and over and over again for hundreds of thousands of years, right? There's always going to be a cycle. Okay, so we got the new moon at C, the full moon at A. So the new moon in the lunar phase is like what part of the seasonal cycle? Name the season. The new moon will correspond to what?
The transition between the transition between spring and summer is the new moon.
Okay. So now, now, do you understand clearer when I say that either you're 100% right or 50% right? Because now there is no guessing. Because since we know what one is, we only have to then put the other in its place without even thinking. So if the new moon is C and corresponds to the point between spring and summer, the full moon is what, Mr. Mike?
Uh,
Corresponds to what letter?
okay, I'm sort of being a little distracted here, so I'm gonna have to hold
Okay. Candace, you want to take it?
Yes. So then the full moon is the transition point between fall
it.
and winter.
Okay. That is,
Ooh, does this correspond to the equinoxes?
yes.
Okay. There we go. Got it.
But also no. Yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay.
You are 50% right, or you could be 50% wrong. The glass is either half full or half empty. B and D corresponds to the equinoxes. A and C corresponds to the solstices.
And
Got
and did you say that 12 noon is A?
12 midnight.
12 midnight is A. Okay. So then C is 12 noon.
Right.
Got it.
So 12 midnight would correspond to the winter solstice. 12 noon would correspond to the summer solstice. So it's like the year compressed into a day. So it's a 24-hour cycle that has a 28 that is inside of a 28-day cycle that's inside of a cycle that's 365 days long, which is inside of a bigger cycle and a bigger cycle. The underlying principle is that all cycles manifest the same exact way. All energies, right? Because energies move in cycles. When we say cycle, what we're really talking about is the motion of energy moving, and it moves in a cyclical manner, right? It moves in cycles. It has its ups, it has its downs. We've heard that phrase in common vernacular. You got your ups, you got your downs. Okay. So here diagrammatically, we're actually showing you up and we're showing you down. We're showing you to the right and to the left. We're showing you the center point. Okay. So that here we have the full moon is always on top. You remember Newt and Geb? Do we remember Newt and Geb?
Yes, the sky and the earth.
Okay, so where is Newt on this diagram?
A.
Did you finish?
A, well,
Yes.
1A and 4, essentially.
Yes. And then Geb would be
The man on the
C.
bottom.
Mhm.
okay. So without going deep into what Geb is, with the diagram, you should be able to tell me some of the qualities of the earth plane. I'm not asking that as a question to be answered. I'm just saying that you use one to get insight into the other. Another phrase is that we go from the known to the unknown in order to make the unknown known. Sounds rhetorical, but it makes a lot of sense. So we know that A is winter and C is summer. So if we put the full moon at A and the new moon at C, all right, we know winter, we know summer, we have lived through that. Here is the unknown. We take the full moon and we correspond it to winter. We take the new moon and correspond it to summer. So now when you think about the new moon, right, it's not that it's going to be hot out. It's just going to be more yang energy, right? Did I introduce yin and yang? I did, right? So it's going to be more yang energy. So like I was saying last week, so the new moon is a time that you can release negative energies because it's hotter. You can literally burn them away from you. Any conditionings and any phobias, any fears, the new moon is an easier time. Yes, you can do it at any time of the cycle if need be. Because if you at, say, half moon and you need something done that you have to get rid of, you're probably not going to want to wait for 21 days before the new moon. If you could wait, that would be an optimum time. But since you can't wait, maybe what time of day would correspond to the new moon? We just went over it.
You were saying midnight.
No.
Oh, it'd be noon.
Exactly. When do
Yeah,
we
yang energy.
exactly? Okay. So by understanding what happens with one in one cycle, you'll understand what's happening in another cycle, but on a grander or smaller scale. Capiche?
Mm-hmm.
See, these appear to be different things, but that's also the duality of life too. Externally, they appear to be different, but once you study the internal, you'll see that it's all one cycle manifesting on different levels. It's the same cycle. There's a high to a cycle and there's a low. There's to every single cycle, every single vibration, right? Every single energy. There's a high point and there's a low point. And there's a point in between the high, and the low. That's your 4 quadrants to a cycle. Every single cycle, every single energy, every single wave has a high point and a low point. And we can confer that there's going to be a midway point. If you're going from high to low, we don't know exactly where the midpoint is. We can only get to understand the midpoint once we know the 2 parameters, the high and the low. Once we know the high and the low, all we have to do what? Is divide that in half. And we have the midpoint. See, we can't get to a midpoint until we know the 2 extremes, meaning the duality, the high, the low. That's a duality, right? So the same thing with if we were taking surveys, right? And we had, 10 people over here, 5 people over here, 6 people over there, right? We want to find what's the midpoint. Right? So what do? We add all those people up and then we divide it in half. And that becomes the midpoint. So division is something that's natural in nature. It's just that man became aware of it and began to use it more often. But division is always in nature. Matter of fact, I didn't put it up here, but let me just ask you, what are the 4 basic, mathematical symbols? There's only 4.
Plus, minus, division, and multiplication.
Exactly. All right. Now, plus is adding something on, right? Plus 1, plus 2, plus 1, plus whatever, right? Multiplication is a faster way of what? Adding. You don't subtract in multiplication. You always adding on. So adding and multiplying come out of the same gene pool, so to speak. It's both adding. One is a faster way of adding. So we go to, right? We go to dividing and subtraction. Subtraction and dividing is what? A more detailed way of subtracting. So dividing is cold and dry. Subtraction is hot and dry. Multiplying is hot and moist. And not multiplying. I'm getting myself confused. Adding, multiplying, dividing, and subtracting. Right? So multiplying would be 1. Division would be 3. And where I'm getting that from, because division, we are what? Dividing things up. Let's say that this was a pie and you cutting it up, right? You have to use something pretty sharp. The summertime corresponds to the yang energy, forceful, aggression, warrior. So this is where the sword is chopping things up. Got it? You're probably never going to use that in life. So don't even worry about it.
Okay, because I forgot the other where you put the other 3.
Okay. Don't even worry about it. All right.
You can also think of it.
We have Nu, the primordial waters of life, right? Represented as a symbol of water with 3 jugs to hold the water. We call this the subjective realm. Subjective. From the subjective realm manifests the objective realm, the realm of objects. So we have Amen, first manifestation, right? Now, don't get it twisted. Amen is where we put him at in the cosmology. Different parts of Kemet had a different Neteru in the place of Amen. Menefer, a city state called Menefer, the Westerners call it Memphis, is where the step pyramids are, right? The cosmology started with Ptah. Instead of Amen, it was Ptah. And then Ptah gave birth to Shu and Tefnut. Shu and Tefnut gave birth to Nut and Geb, and on and on and on. In another part of Kemet called Anu, which the Greeks call Heliopolis, the one that manifested out of the nothingness was called Ra. Ra then gives birth to Shu and Tefnut. Tefnut gives birth to Nut and Geb. So the only thing that's changed was the head, right? Everything else stays the same. Now, do y'all know the difference between a Phillips screwdriver and a flat screwdriver?
Yeah.
So from Amen, we have Tefnut and Shu. From Tefnut and Shu, we have Nut and Geb. This becomes the basis of the common denominator. Amen is in the center, and these become the 4 quadrants. So here we have level 1, we have level 2, and then we have level 3 or stage 3. Stage 1 is the unity. Stage 2 is duality. Remember, we showed you mitosis, right? Mitosis is happening in your body right now, every day, all day long. There's cells splitting, new cells being made, old cells dying. It's a cycle of life. So here we have the 4 quadrants, the 4 temperaments. It's the objective realm. This is the 4 Neteru of Amen. Fedu Neteru em Amen. Amen. How the Fedu Neteru em Amen manifests in our everyday life. All right. Here is a picture of the electromagnetic spectrum, right? It's called the electromagnetic spectrum, right? It is electrical and magnetic. The two cannot be separated ever. not on this planet or in this galaxy. Right? So we have the male and female. Electrical is the male, magnetism is the female. The two can never be separated. This is an individual. Remember, we said that the word individual means the undivided duality. Electromagnetic is an individual, it is an undivided duality. So this is the waveform that we see. We call it sine, cosine, sine, cosine, sine, cosine. And this is how it manifests on Earth. When we have these waveforms close to together, meaning that they're happening more frequently, right? The same wave, just moving rapidly is called a gamma ray. When we slow that down, the same gamma ray turns into X-rays. When we slow that down, same energy, we just slowing it down. It turns into ultraviolet. We slow it down more, it turns into visible light. That's the light, everything that we can see. And then when we slow it down even more, we get what's called infrared and microwaves. When this is what is happening in your microwave oven, it's small waves, and it's causing the whatever is in it to vibrate at that same rate, causing it to heat up. And then smaller than microwaves are radio waves, or should I say longer waves are radio waves. So what I'm striving to say here is that radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet, X-rays, and gamma rays are all one. They're all one, moving at different speeds. So when they move at different speeds, they manifest physically differently, but they're all one. It is the one, the underlying principle to all things. We have this electromagneticness. All right, so here we're going back to the basic symbol of a circle, right? This is also called, we now know it as a cycle. It can be representing as a cycle, going around in a circle, one cycle. All right, a circle is a cycle projected in space. What do I mean by that? Here is a cycle. It goes up, it goes down. So it's moving over time. Here we have it in one place, so it's in space. Here, the same cycle is moving over time. So now we have a cycle is a circle projected over time. See, time, meaning the movement of from one space to another, we measure this in time. Here we have a circle, right? It's infinite. It's infinite. We call this in Kemet Nehehe, right? It's an infinite cycle. This we called jet. Jet. This is moving infinitely, but over space, right? I'm trying to make this as simple as possible so we can get this comprehension. So a circle and a cycle are the same thing. A circle is a cycle, and a cycle is a circle. So if we took the yin cycle, the yin cycle, the yin cycle, the yin circle, and we cut that in half and we watched it over time, we will see that the yin energy will reach a high point, middle point, and then come back to a low point in order to start the cycle again. So this is how we are able to examine energy over time. It's actually starting back at the same spot within its own cycle, but it's moving over time. So we have a cycle of yin. We have a high point to the yin, that's the most yin, and then we have a low point to the yin. The high point to the yin would be when you are sleeping in bed. So your yin power, your magnetic force is at its height. The low point of yin is when you're awakened. Okay, so now the yin force is at its lowest. What is at its height? Because nothing is left out. So we have time, we have yang, right? So here, when the yin is at its highest, the yang is at its lowest. When the Okay, so yin is the moon, metaphor for the moon. It's a metaphor for the woman. Sun, yang is the man, it's the sun. And so now we have, you see, we have a high point, we have a low point of the yin, and we have a midpoint of the yin. Both the yin and the yang are equal at these points. When they progress over time, then one becomes stronger than the other. You ever, I know you have. Y'all ever worked so hard or did so much work or been up for so long a time that your body is trying to put you to sleep, and it's like you're halfway asleep, you're halfway up, right? But the body is naturally saying, we need to recharge. You cannot keep the yang going for this long a time. We will cause problems or death. So the body naturally, right, runs out of yang energy, and then the yin energy comes up, but we try to hold it back. You ever see the young children when they don't want to go to sleep, they halfway fall asleep and then they wake back up? You could think of that as their springtime or their fall, because the heat is falling. So that would be their fall time, and they're about to go night night. So every cycle has a fourfold. Every oscillating energy, every frequency, every wave has four definable parts to it. This is how we get the four temperaments. So it's not that we made these up, and it could be 3 temperaments, it could be 5 temperaments, 10 temperaments. The temperamental energy is coming from the observation of the cycles and the points in the cycle. So over a period of time, we show the fluctuation of energies in what's called a sine cosine. SINECOSINE. This is what we call a sine and cosine, otherwise called frequency in the electromagnetic frequencies. Sine and cosine is what we would call it in trigonometry and geometry. So here are the 4 points. You have the high point. You have the high point, you have the low point, and the 2 in-between points, right? Where they're halfway between the highest point and the lowest point, whatever the highest point is, and wherever the lowest point is. It may not be always equal, meaning that let's say that this goes up to 10, this might just go down to 5, and then back up to 10, and then down to 5. Okay. So, right, with the yang, you have the orange we're representing as yang, because orange is actually a yang color and blue is a yin color. Orange, you have the low point, you have the high point. So you have this twin energies moving. The duality is moving in a manner that's okay. So we have A, B, C, and D. These are the 4 points. These are the 4 sections of a frequency of any energy. All energies have a 4-fold cycle to them. Why do they have the 4-fold cycle? Because they have a high and a low, and they have an in-between, 2 in-betweens. In Kemet, the symbol of energy in motion is represented as a snake wrapped around a stick. We've seen this image before. Quite sure you've seen this in your short period of time of being on this planet. Here is a hieroglyph that represents energy in motion. So the serpent is a representation of energy, and you have the legs, which is energy in motion. This is what this symbol represents, energy in motion. Here is a carving on a temple wall of Jehuti, the nectar of wisdom, holding 2 staffs with serpents on top of them. Here's a larger picture to show you so you can see it clearer, because it probably wasn't that clear, that small. Here we have 2 serpents intertwined on a staff. So here Jehuti is offering life to the Nesut, which you call king, the Nesut. He's offering life and the duality of the energy forces. He's presenting them to the king. So, who is Jehuti? Some people call him Tehuti. You may have heard him as Thoth, Thoth, Thoth. Right? The Greeks later on called him Hermes. Hermes, Hermes, Hermes. Okay, so Thoth in modern vernacular, think of Thoth as your ultimate, the ultimate AI. But Thoth is the AI, the African intelligence, the AI of the universe. Jehuti in the Yoruba culture becomes Ifa. Okay. Jehuti becomes the OB in Santeria. Jehuti becomes the Yi King in China. Jehuti is the oracles. Oracle, cycle, CLE is cycle. Aura is the mouthpiece of cycles. An oracle is a mouthpiece of cycles that it perceives coming because of the natural flow of the energy. Once you know the natural flow of the energy and you master this, and it will take a few years, you then become an oracle yourself. So here, Jehuti is holding this staff, this wand or staff. This is called a Wuser staff. All right, I'll show you a larger picture of it in a second. But what I want to share with you is in Haitian voodoo, Aida Wedo, spelled Aidawedo, Aida Wedo is associated. Oh, Aida Wedo is a powerful Loa. This is what the Haitians call it. In Kemet, we call it the Neteru. Christians use the term angels. The Muslims use the term jinn. So these are different names for spirits. So in Haitian voodoo, Aida Wedo is a very powerful spirit associated with the rainbow, waters, snakes, and fertility, often depicted as a snake and considered the wife of Dambala Wedo, which is also depicted as a serpent. In Haitian voodoo, we have sigils, or commonly called images, that we use to help invoke the frequency or energy. This is the sigil for Aida Wedo and Dambala Wedo. You see it as two serpents, and note that there are also stars around. There's stars around, right? This symbol in the middle, you probably don't know what it is, but what does it look like it could be? I'm not asking you to answer that. I just want you to think about it. All right. So here we have, right, the yin serpent. We have Aida Wedo and Dambala Wedo. Aida Wedo and Dambala Wedo, right? Representing the yang and yin forces of nature. And so when we put them together, we get this intertwining serpent energy, right? So down the middle, we have the Wusa staff. On top, this is a representation of some type of canine animal, right? Or some type of dog. On the bottom, we have what looks to be like a shrimp fork, right? A pitchfork. This is representation of the duality coming up the spine and coming into this. Canine represents a dog, a jackal, or a dog. Why did we use a dog? And it's representative. If this is our coccyx bone, where the dual energy flows in, this becomes our spine. So this becomes our head. So why are we using a dog, some type of dog animal, to represent the head? because dogs, like the brain, can be trained no matter what age that they are. You've heard the phrase, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's not true. You can teach an old dog new tricks. It it just takes longer. Now, this we put all this together and we get the symbol that you recognize as the medicine, the symbol for medicine, other also called the caduceus. The caduceus. But you see how this symbol comes out of our knowledge of cycles and and you understand now what the two snakes mean on the caduceus. This is the brain. This is the spinal cord. This is this can be any duality within the body. It can be the sympathetic and parasympathetic part of the autonomous nervous system, right? It can be the energy flowing to the right and left hemispheres of the brain. And the wings represents the upper spiritual nature, while the snake represents the earthly energy and physical nature. So we have the snake wrapped around the stick. The stick or staff represents the spine. In Indus Kush, which y'all call in India, in Indus Kush, this energy that travels up the spine is called Kundalini. Translates as what? Serpent power. Why are we using the symbol of a serpent? Because the energy moves in a serpentine way. So we use the symbol of a serpent to represent how the energy is flowing. So Kundalini doesn't go straight up the spine. It's like a serpent that curls itself up, in and out, right and left. Here on the top of the kings and queens of Egypt, you'll find a serpent coming out of their forehead. This is the same serpent that we talked about in Indus Kush that goes up the spine and then protrudes out as the third eye, right? The ability to see. And notice that there's two emblems on this head. It's a duality. Here we have a vulture, represents the higher plane, and we have a snake representing the lower plane. Notice that the snake is higher than the vulture, right? The vulture, the spiritual plane, coming down to earth, and the serpent energy, the earth energy, moving up into the spirit world so that they meet right at the pineal gland. The pineal gland. Here's another view of the serpent on top of the head of the king. So the serpent, the Uchat, as it's called in the Kemetic tradition, represents one half of the Kundalini force coming through our bodies. Auta, the name of the serpent on the royal crown. Auta. Arati Heri Eb Het Neter is the name of the Urias. This is the serpent goddess. And Ari Ankh, we all know what the word Ankh means. Now we know that the word Arit means serpent, because here we have it's called the living serpent, the serpent that's living, the living serpent. These are metaphorical phrases that relates to the energy. In the Benin culture of West Africa, on his crown, You see, there's a symbol. There's two symbols. They look sort of like flowers, but what they actually represent, the top one represents the sun, and the bottom one represents the moon. In Central America, we have something called the feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl. It's called the feathered serpent. You saw that on the conduces, we had wings and we had the serpent. This is how the Central Americans represented that energy, right? The feather representing the spiritual plane and the serpent representing the energy that is flowing from the physical to the spiritual. Now we go into traditional Chinese medicine, and they also have not a serpent, but they call it the dragon of heaven. Tang Long. Tang Long, the Chinese name for the dragon of heaven, Tang Long. Tang Long literally translates to heavenly dragon or celestial dragon. We now know that the word heavenly doesn't mean what the Christians mean, right? Celestial doesn't mean what the astrologers mean. It means that those inner plane energies that cannot be seen with the physical eye. So in West Africa, Central America, and in China, you see we have symbolic representations of the energies, the frequency of energies flowing through our bodies. The serpent power is called Oshumare in the Yoruba tradition. Oshumare means rainbow in the Yoruba language. It is also the spirit of the rainbow. Why did we use the rainbow? Because the rainbow has all the frequencies in it on one level, right? There are 7 basic frequencies, and then the octave goes higher, just like you have on a piano keys, right? You have C, D, A, B, no, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? So it's the same notes, but on different octaves, different frequencies. Same note, different frequencies. So it's a higher octave. You have a high C and a low C. The etymology of the word spirit. That's why I didn't say anything before when you were saying that this represents spirit. Let's go into the etymology of the word spirit. In a spiritual context, the etymology of the word spirit comes into Middle English via Old French, esprit, esprit. Its source is Latin spiritus, whose original meaning was breath or breathing. Hence the word spirit, soul, courage, vigor. Its ultimate origin is a Proto-Indian European root, species. In a spiritual context, the soul. So the breath, like air, moves in a spiraling motion. You see the word spirit in the word spiral, right? So in a spiritual context, the soul often refers to the essence of a person's being, encompassing their mind, their will, and emotions, while the spirit is seen as a connection to a higher power or God, representing a deeper, more spiritual aspect of a person. This is what you're going to get as the meaning of these two words. This is bullshit. Because Soul is German and spirit is Latin for the same thing. The word soul is a German word which means breath. Spirit is a Latin word coming through French into English, which means breath. It doesn't mean ghosts, but we use it as, oh, these spirits are bothering me. You're using the word wrong. The word spirit means to breathe. So our breath, we can't see it unless it's really cold outside or we're blowing smoke out. But our breath comes out of us in a spiraling motion. It's not a straight line. The English word soul originates from Old English saul, meaning soul, life, spirit. Notice how now I'm getting these definitions from their dictionary. Notice how they use the word spirit to define soul and they use the word soul to define spirit. So the English word soul originates from Old English saul, meaning soul, life, spirit, being, ultimately stemming from Proto-Germanic saula, or uncertain origin, with cognates in other Germanic languages like German, seal, and Dutch ziel. So soul is a German word and spirit is a Latin word, which means the same thing, to breathe. Breathing in, breathing out. To understand the nuances of soul and spirit, it is helpful to delve into the etymological roots. Here's a breakdown. Soul. The English word soul comes from the Old English saul, which itself is derived from the Proto-Germanic soulo. There are some interesting theories regarding the older origins of the word. Some researchers have suggested that it might have been connected to words relating to sea or lake. This could be due to ancient beliefs regarding the dwelling place of souls. In essence, soul has historically been associated with the vital principle of a living being, the animating force within. Spirit. Spirit originates from the Latin spiritus, which means breath. The Latin word is connected to the verb espere, meaning to breathe. Therefore, spirit fundamentally relates to the concept of breath and by extension to the animating force of life. This connection to breath is signified as breath was often seen as the physical manifestation of life itself. This connection to breath is significant, not signified, it's significant. Sorry about that. Both soul and spirit have historical connections to the concept of breath. This highlights the ancient understanding of life as being intrinsically linked to the act of breathing. However, over time, distinctions arose. Soul came to be associated more with the individual's essence, personality, and consciousness, while spirit took on a more transcendent meaning, relating to a vital force or connection to the divine. It's also very important to note that the Greek word psyche and pneuma also have a very strong connection to the word soul and spirit, respectively. And these Greek words also have very strong ties to the idea of breath. So this is how, if you did a one-to-one translation, this is how you would spell psyche from the Greek letters. This is the word psych, just like we have in psychology, the study of the mind, and pneuma, meaning the physical plane, as in noumenal plane, and you have the phenomenal plane, the phenomenal plane. Noumenal, okay. The breath, like air, moves in a spiraling motion. This is some nerd scientist that developed this apparatus that he is able to see the unseen frequencies coming off of different objects and is able to cast it onto the wall as a shadow. So watch and explore. You can even see the frequencies coming off of the hand, or should I say the energy coming off the hand, because we don't know how frequent it's moving. See, we've all may have struck a match on a matchbox, but all we saw was smoke and some fire. We didn't see all these other energies that was floating around it. But note, here is somebody pouring a liquid out of a container. And you see the gases from the liquid. Even on the bottom, there's energies coming off of this liquid. Here, a person is just, all they're doing is rubbing their hands together. You see the energy coming off the hands. You don't see this in everyday life. Here is a bottle of ammonia. Here is somebody breathing. Microcosm, macrocosm. You see how the movement of the air in the form of clouds is moving in a spiraling motion. Air never moves in a straight line. It's always, everything is spiraling, 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 spiraling. So this is a spirit moving across the land. Here's some other spirits moving across the land. Here's some other spirits. Here's spirits moving across these islands. So when our ancestors talked about the air and different aspects of the air being spirits, well, they didn't use the word spirit, because we now know the word spirit means only really to breathe. So this is the word Neteru, has a rate of breathing. The Obasuns have a rate of breathing. Oshun, the goddess of love, peace, and harmony, has a different rate of breathing than if you was Ogun and about to get into a fight. You standing there with the love of your life, or about to be the love of your life, is not the same frequency as if you are about to get into a fight because somebody bumped your car. Different frequencies. Our ancestors named these frequencies. Okay, the Western world also names them too, but they don't have stories like we have stories. They call one frequency electricity, another frequency magnetism. But that doesn't tell you anything about what they do. Then you got to have a whole year foundational class to learn what is electricity and magnetism. Our ancestors had stories. The Native Americans had stories. The Hindus had stories. China has stories. Africans have stories. These stories are actually coded ways of teaching you about the frequencies and the energies that are flowing throughout the environment and the galaxies and the universe. You're not going to you're not going to pass away on the physical plane and see a man with a falcon's head. That's only if that is your conditioning all of your life. If that's what you expect to see, then yes, that's what you're going to see. The Native Americans are not trained that way, so they will see a different energy manifestation when they get into the physical plane. Same thing with Indus Kush. Same basic underlying principle, but the external is called something different, right? Just like we have fowls, Foul, no, Fowl, right? One is called a chicken and the other is called a rooster.